Is the threat of George Groves' punching power being slightly overblown by a lot of boxing fans ahead of this Chris Eubank Jr. fight on Saturday? The reason I say this is because there's a lot of people who are picking George Groves to knock Chris Eubank Jr. out within the first half of the fight. Now, we know Groves is a good puncher, but there's nothing in Eubank Jr.'s career so far that has happened to suggest that he has any type of issue when it comes to punch resistance. Furthermore, Eubank Jr. isn't a guy that tends to get hit a lot in most of his fights. When have you seen Eubank Jr. badly marked up in a fight? And on top of all that, you go look at George Groves' last 4 fights. Jamie Cox, Fedor Chudinov, Edward Goodnecht and Martin Murray. He didn't drop any of those guys with head punches. And all of those guys are slower than Eubank Jr. Do they all have iron jaws or something? Is that why none of them were dropped from head punches? Do they all have much better punch resistance than Eubank Jr. has? Because they certainly don't have better defenses than Eubank Jr. has. They're all much slower. They're all much more stationary targets who stood right in front of George Groves and were there to be hit. Eubank Jr. is surely much faster than all those guys. He's surely much more slippery with his head movement, particularly when he's boxing on the back foot. And that's why, look, I'm not saying that it's impossible for George Groves to knock Eubank Jr. out. He's got very good punching power. But I think people are underestimating how difficult it can actually be to tag Eubank Jr. clean. I know he does leave himself open when he comes forward. But if Groves manages to drop Eubank Jr. or hurt him, I'm not convinced Groves is going to be able to finish him off. Because when Eubank Jr. is in a defensive posture and he has opponents coming at him, he's very, very slippery and difficult to catch. It's only when he comes forward and attacks that he can be defensively vulnerable. But on the back foot, when he's ducking and diving and slipping and sliding, he's actually very good defensively. If you hadn't noticed this, go watch his fights. Groves, in contrast, when Groves is in a defensive posture and when he's being pushed back, he's very sloppy defensively. So, in essence, you've got the opposite vulnerability in each fighter. Groves is defensively vulnerable on the back foot, whereas Eubank Jr. is defensively vulnerable on the front foot. And again, people are going to say, well, the dynamics of the fight are going to be Groves on the back foot, where, you know, and Eubank Jr. going forward. So you're going to have defensive vulnerabilities on both sides. Eubank Jr. is going to be defensively vulnerable because he's attacking Groves, and Groves is going to be defensively vulnerable because he's on the back foot. You understand what I'm saying? So that kind of makes it a very interesting situation. But again, I say to you, go look at Groves' last 4 fights. He didn't drop anybody with any head punches. Not Cox, not Chudinov, not Goodnecht or Murray. Yes, he hurt those guys. Very unfortunate what happened to Goodnecht. But he didn't hit the deck and he didn't go, you know, he went 12 rounds, he didn't hit the deck. Eubank Jr. did something similar to one of his opponents, Nick Blackwell. So if we want to talk about punching power, you know, it's not necessarily punching power that is going to seriously injure your opponent. It's more an accumulation of punches over a long, tough fight. You know, and it's very sad what happened to those guys. But again, that's no indication necessarily that George Groves is going to knock Eubank Jr. out. Martin Murray, he hurt Murray several times, but he couldn't get Murray out of there. You know, he stopped Chudinov, but Chudinov was on his feet. He never went down. Jamie Cox took all George Groves' best head punches. Never went down. So why are people so convinced that George Groves is going to knock Chris Eubank Jr. out with head punches? I mean, I don't know. You let me know what, you know, your reasonings if you're one of those people who thinks George Groves is going to stop Eubank Jr. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think if George Groves wins, it's far more likely that he wins on points rather than stops Eubank Jr. I think that's far more likely. I think if there's a stoppage in the fight, my money would be on Eubank Jr. stopping George Groves late. That would be my money if there's a stoppage. I think there's a good chance it goes to points regardless of who wins. But yeah, if there's a stoppage, my money would be on Eubank Jr. scoring the stoppage late in the fight. I just don't see Eubank Jr. stylistically as being somebody easy to knock out. I haven't seen any vulnerabilities in him in terms of punch resistance. And defensively, when he goes into defensive mode, he's actually quite slick and slippery and difficult to tag. And I think it will make him difficult to finish off. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think that George Groves' punching power is being a little bit overblown going into this fight? The effectiveness of his punching power against Eubank Jr., the threat of it, is it a little overblown? We know he's a tremendous puncher. We get that. But his last 4 opponents, nobody hit the deck from a head punch. Why will Eubank Jr. be any different? Why will he hit the deck from head punches when those guys didn't? Let me know what you think in the comment section, people. It's happening. I'm out.